Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we take a look at the comic book series, The Joker, the Clown Prince of Crime. The Joker, subtitled The Clown Prince of Crime, was the Joker's own comic book that was launched in 1975, lasting for 9 issues until it was cancelled. This was around the same time as Man-Bat and the Secret Society of Supervillains got their own comics as well. I guess there was a fascination with rogues in the mid-70s. Who knows why? None of these titles lasted long though, so the interest clearly wasn't strong enough. Anyway, so the Joker was the first Batman villain to get his own series, and the first supervillain period, I think at least. It's a pretty strange idea to make the murderous harlequin of hate the protagonist of his own comic. What kind of a protagonist is that? Well, that's what we're here to find out. I'm not gonna go too in-depth into any of the singular stories, and mainly focus on the entire series as a whole. I will briefly give you the plot synopsis for each of these 9 stories however, and yes, they are all standalone one-shots. There are no multi-parters or arcs or anything like that. You could essentially read them in any order you want, as there is zero continuity to speak of. So the opening tale, featured in the very first issue, was written by Danny O'Neill and penciled by Irv Novick. It's called The Joker's Double Jeopardy, and in it the Clown Prince of Crime is offended when Two-Face is declared a greater criminal genius than he is. Joker then sets out to sabotage Harvey's latest caper and prove that it is he who is Gotham City's public enemy number 1. The second story, again by O'Neill and Novick, is titled The Sad Saga of Willie the Weeper. This one is about an obscure, forgotten Golden Age villain called the Weeper, who always cries while pulling off heists, preventing him from finishing them. He hires Mr. Happy, the Joker, to cure him of this ailment. The third issue is again written by O'Neill, but this time penciled by Ernie Chan. It's called The Last Haha, and it's basically just about Joker fighting the Creeper, a pretty fitting antagonist for the Clown Prince of Crime. The fourth tale, titled A Gold Star for the Joker, features the writing of Elliot S. Maggin and the pencils of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. In it, Joker visits Star City where he wreaks some havoc, falls in love with Dinah Lance aka the Black Canary, and of course fights Green Arrow. The fifth story is written by Martin Pasco and features the return of Novick doing the art. Called The Joker Goes Wild, it's about Joker and the Royal Flush Gang going after the same score, leading to a conflict. The sixth entry, titled Sherlock Stalks the Joker, was again done by the team of O'Neill and Novick. This one tells the tale of Clive Sigerson, a stage actor playing Sherlock Holmes in a play. Joker clocks him on the head while pulling off a caper, leading the actor to actually believe that he is the real Sherlock Holmes. The confused idiot then sets out to capture this nefarious knave, the Joker, who reminds him of his own arch-nemesis, Professor Moriarty. The seventh story, called Luther, You're Driving Me Sane, was done by Maggin and Novick. In it, the Joker and Lex Luthor accidentally exchanged personalities with each other through the use of one of Luthor's devices. The Clown Prince of Crime now has the rational, scientific, genius-level intellect of Lex Luthor, while Lex himself has the loony, irrational mind of the insane Joker. The eighth tale is again by Maggin and Novick and is titled The Scarecrow's Fearsome Face-Off. In this one, Joker decides to rip off the Scarecrow's MO for some reason, using fear during his capers instead of comedy. Naturally, Crane is unhappy with this, especially when the clown even dresses up like him, which leads to a battle between the two. The ninth and final issue, yet again by Maggin and Novick, features a story called The Cat and the Clown. In this one, both Joker and Catwoman go after the same score, namely to kidnap Hollywood star Benny Springer and his equally famous co-star, the cat named Hiawatha. So yeah, these stories are obviously pretty simple, and some of them downright silly. The basic premise here is a series that follows the Joker's various shenanigans without having Batman around. He doesn't appear in any of the issues. It's kind of a strange experience reading these comics, because while the series is overall fairly simple and a bit goofy, the Joker himself is portrayed as a gleeful murderer. This is not the harmless prankster Joker of the Silver Age. This guy kills a lot of people throughout these issues. There's even one part where Joker knocks a guy unconscious in his hideout and then throws him down a shaft leading to an incinerator. So Joker has an incinerator chute in his hideout and uses it to burn people alive. That's pretty fucking grisly. And not to mention all the countless goons, cops, security guards and innocent bystanders that he murders with his Joker venom. I've never seen so many grinning dead bodies across a mere 9 issues. It's kind of strange to have a protagonist who's like that, yet in many of the stories we do root for him. In the ones where he fights heroes though, like Green Arrow and the Creeper, Joker is actually portrayed as the antagonist. These stories are basically Green Arrow and Creeper stories that happens to feature Joker as the villain, so they don't really belong in this series. It's pretty obvious that the writers had a hard time coming up with plots that cast Mr. J as the main character, and who can blame them? It would have been easier if they went with a more sympathetic rogue, like Catwoman or the Riddler maybe. Regardless, I've gotta say that I just absolutely love the portrayal of the Joker in this series. It's a near perfect clown prince of crime. He's deadly and very insane, yet at the same time a hilarious comedian. There's lots of funny jokes and lines sprinkled all across the 9 stories, and Joker also utilizes a vast array of zany gag gadgets and weapons. This is my Joker, a killer clown with a wicked sense of humor. If you're not into that version of the character and you prefer a more serious and nihilistic Joker in the vein of the Dark Knight portrayal, then you're not gonna like this series. This is the Joker at his clowniest, while also being depicted as a psychotic murderer. The series actually makes a big deal about Joker being insane and features Arkham Asylum prominently. I think it's here that the whole revolving doors idea of the place began, because Joker uses the asylum as a resting place, coming and going as he pleases. He even refers to Arkham as his home away from home. I love this, that Joker actually likes being in Arkham and views it as his natural habitat. It's basically what Grant Morrison did in the Arkham Asylum graphic novel, although he did it in a much darker way of course. What's interesting too is that you have to keep in mind that this was 1975, and if you watch my review of Arkham Asylum's first appearance, you know that that was in 1974. So the place was brand new, and this series must have been heavily responsible for popularizing it. The only other rogue we see in here besides Joker is Two-Face, however. All other inmates are unnamed extras. Like I said in the first appearance video, the asylum was specifically created by Denny O'Neil to house these 2 villains, nobody else. When Scarecrow appears in this series, he's referred to as having escaped prison, so he never went to Arkham during this era, which I find odd. I mean, surely O'Neil could have found a padded cell for Crane as well, as a guy who dresses up like a Scarecrow clearly has issues. But I guess that was considered normal back in the 70s. So if I had to pick a few favorites out of these 9 tales, I'd say the first one with Two-Face and the one with Lex Luthor. Obviously I'm partial to any story featuring Dent, but out of the ones where Joker fights another villain, this one is the best. I think it's really funny to see Joker all butthurt about someone saying that Two-Face is a greater criminal than him, and it's an interesting motivation because Mr. J is a really vain, self-centered, egotistical bastard. I also like the fact that in the end neither he nor Harvey really wins. They both kinda lose, so they're portrayed as equals. I would not have liked this story if Joker totally pawned and humiliated Dent, like he did in the Joker graphic novel. These 2 rogues are amusing to watch together as well, as their radically different personalities play off each other really well. Joker is a zany clown, while Harvey is serious and grumpy. The Lex Luthor one I'd say is the best of the lot. First off, Joker and Luthor aren't portrayed as enemies, but actually as friends, kinda. With Lex we get another odd pairing as he too is serious, in fact dead serious, and can't think about anything except work, that is killing Superman, while Joker just wants to play and have fun. The story makes a great comparison between DC Comics' 2 biggest villains, showing that one is an extremely rational man of science, while the other is an extremely irrational lunatic. They're opposites. One stands for sense and order, the other for lunacy and chaos. I've never even thought of it that way before reading this comic. Of course, they then switch personalities and gets a taste of the other side of the spectrum, and it is really awesome to see a maniacal Luthor just letting loose, while a dead serious Joker worries and tries to analyze everything. As for the worst stories, I'd say the Sherlock Holmes one and one with Scarecrow. The Sherlock one is just ridiculous and feels like it belongs in the Silver Age and not the Bronze Age. Joker is merely the antagonist in it as well. The real main character is the fake Sherlock, and who cares about him? Plus Joker's scheme to recreate crimes from the classic Holmes stories is pretty lame. Now the Scarecrow one is a real shame, as it could have been great. There was some potential for really interesting stuff by pitting fear against comedy, fear toxin against Joker venom, but in the end nothing really comes out of it. I also strongly dislike that Crane is kinda portrayed as a chump who gets his ass handed to him by the Clown Prince of Crime. It's basically the opposite of the Two-Face story where Dent and Joker were equals. What a missed opportunity. In conclusion, I love this series, despite some of the stories not being particularly great. I also feel some nostalgia for it, as I had a few of the stories in Swedish black and white reprints in my early teens. If you're a Joker fan or just a fan of comic book supervillains in general, then I highly recommend this series. It was released in a single trade paperback volume a couple of years ago, so it's the first time it's readily available since the original single issues were published back in the 70s. I say grab that volume as quickly as you can before it goes out of print. It's an invaluable item for your Joker collection and a very unique part of the character's long and rich history. So there you have it. That's the Joker, the Clown Prince of Crime. Remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.